Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So, I got a fun and exciting episode for you guys today, because if you haven't heard the news yet, Supermodel 3 Emulation is now available on Android. About 2 weeks ago, I did a preview of a work-in-progress build that wasn't yet available to download, but you're going to be able to go over to the store and grab it today. And I know a lot of you have been asking for more Android emulation videos, so I'm trying out a second one. So if you are interested in the topic, leave me a comment down below and tell me about it, and make sure you hit like on this video. I'm not just trying to juice engagement, I actually use the metrics on these things to decide what I'm going to do in the future, and right now Android's definitely sitting on the bubble of whether or not I'm going to make more videos. But for Supermodel and Model 3 emulation is absolutely something that I want to talk about, because it is one of my favorite Sega arcade boards of all time, and the emulation on Supermodel is absolutely outstanding and really keeps all of these games alive. And trust me, as someone who loves to collect arcade boards and has Model 3 sets in their collection, these things are incredibly hard to actually wire up and enjoy at home. So Supermodel definitely is keeping a lot of those arcade exclusives still playable. Stuff like Magical Truck Adventure, stuff like Emergency Call Ambulance, those never actually got home ports, so the only way to play them is on real hardware or via Supermodel. And I will say the performance here in this emulation on Android is absolutely outstanding. So big thanks to the moderator of my Discord, the Cool Pop, for getting me some of this footage, because if you didn't realize, I've been moving houses from one house to the other. I don't actually have an Android emulation set up 100% dialed in yet. Additionally, cold opcode from the Super3 server helped with the footage as well via the Cool Pups. I do appreciate them for doing that. But just so you know, these are running on phones right now, and that's something I actually wanted to feature, including the controller overlay, just to show you that you can basically just have Sega Model 3 emulation in the palm of your hand on the same device that you end up taking phone calls on, and who knows what else you do with it, if you know what I mean. But all jokes aside, this is important because this is arcade preservation on a completely new platform, and I totally understand not every single emulator actually comes over to Android, so that is why a lot of you are excited about this stuff. And with the Android installation base being absolutely massive out there, I feel like in the future you are going to see more emulators come over to Android, because it is a very big audience as far as an operating system any platform is concerned. Now you will see here we're basically beyond widescreen 16:9, and that is because Supermodel as an emulator and Super3, the emulator here, are going to support different aspect ratios. And if you are playing on a phone, there's basically no phone out there that is a 16:9 aspect ratio, so you can either extend out like we're doing here, or you could basically still be in 4:3 or even 16:9 with basically some pillar bars on the left and right hand side of your device screen. Now of course, if you're using a desktop Android environment, that's not going to be the situation whatsoever. It'll basically adhere to your monitor, which is probably either 16:9 or 16:10. But moving over to Emergency Call Ambulance, I will say this absolutely is a game that is hot right now, because it is going to be in the new Yakuza Kiwami game as well. One of the first times you're ever going to be able to play it at home. But for the longest time, the only way to play this was via Supermodel emulation, and before that, the only way to play the game was to find an arcade cabinet for this out in the wild. And I haven't seen one for years, so if you do know where there is one, especially in the Midwest, leave me a comment down below and you tell me about it. But if this is just a port of Supermodel to Android environments, then you want it to have the exact same performance, the exact same graphical capability, and the exact same ease of use of playing games as you would on actual Supermodel on a Windows PC, Linux, or Mac. And I will tell you right now, in my experience slightly playing around with this, even though I don't have the capture chain set up 100% dialed in, you just sit down and you start playing the games. You do not need this controller overlay over the screen. I just left it up here in the captures and asked for that to be included, so you can kind of see how it's actually functioning. You can just have the bare screen, and that 100% will just look incredible. And you'll see from the footage, just running on a phone, it is smooth, it is fluid, it looks good, the graphics are correct, and everything else just feels like playing Emergency Call Ambulance. And if you've never played this one before, I can't stress enough, I've been talking about it a lot on the channel just because of Yakuza. It's absolutely an amazing game. Because it does take place in Chicago, I have to like it just a little bit more. It's also going to be our first soundtrack sample, so you can get an idea of the audio quality of Supermodel emulation on Android. 45 seconds, and I'll be right back with a lot more games to test and tell you how they did. I mean, honestly, that sounds exactly like I would expect the game to sound like on Supermodel, whether I was playing on a Windows machine like I usually do or on Android. And if you're wondering why you get those letterbox lines over some of the cutscenes, that is because in a 4x3 environment, the way these games are designed, those letterbox bars would come in to do pseudo widescreen for some of the cutscenes, so the game is acting exactly as it's expected. When you actually extend it out to 16 by 9 or further, you see that visual effect a little bit more. It's just one of those things. Supermodel does the exact same thing on Windows. It's just how it works, so it isn't a visual glitch. Now, I'm sure somebody could actually modify the game ROM to try to actually make those little letterbox bars go into a 16 by 9 or wider environment, but nobody has actually done it yet. But as we cruise through Chicago here in this ambulance again, the control is where it needs to be, the performance is where it needs to be. I really don't have any complaints of this version of Supermodel on Android whatsoever, but do be aware that just like anything else, depending on what Android device you're using to play this, you are going to get better or worse performance. Like pretty much any emulation out there, just don't bring a potato to the party, or in this instance a potato in your pocket, and you will be perfectly fine. Now moving over to Spike Out here, an absolutely amazing 3D beat 'em up game. Sometimes you might notice that when you extend the screen out, sometimes those backgrounds don't 100% actually appear in the skybox. There is an option to extend those out, but they don't always work perfectly 100% of the time. But again, that is not this doing anything incorrect. It is still work in progress, because Supermodel on Windows is still getting updates, and of course it's one of those things. I don't think emulation's ever hitting a 1.0 status totally done. There's always tweaks and other things that people want to work on, and we just kind of have to wait and see how that goes in the future. But Supermodel on Android today is absolutely spot on. You're going to have a lot of fun with it, and you can stop thinking about whether or not it's emulation and just play the game and have fun. But I am curious, if you are using an Android device, leave me a comment down below and tell me which one it is and what the specs are, because unlike something like a PC, whether it's a Linux, Mac, or actual Windows, there's so much more diversity in the overall chipset that's going to be in an Android device, whether it is a handheld, whether it is something like a tablet, or even a set-top box, or especially a phone. So it's one of those things. Trying to actually keep track of what performance does what on what devices is a very difficult thing on Android, because there is just such a massive diversity out there in the hardware that's going to run it. You have stuff like Snapdragons, and you have stuff like NVIDIA APUs and some of the Shield TVs, so you're never quite sure what it is you're using. But moving over to Dirt Devils here, absolutely incredible looking on just a phone, and that really is the fun thing. Just imagine sitting on the train, going to work, or even sitting as a passenger in a car playing this. You might get a little motion sickness, at least if you're me, because I can't sit in any seat other than the driver's seat without getting incredibly nauseous in real life. It's always been a problem, so I can't ever play video games in a car, completely missing out on some good gaming time. But if you aren't like me and you actually have a stomach that doesn't have a tissue paper constitution, playing this on your phone would just be straight up fun. It's also going to be our second soundtrack sample, 35 seconds this time, and I'll be right back with one more big game to show you.
All up to go. Come on, you can do it. Time extended. 3 laps to go. Come on, you can do it.
And yes, before you ask, of course, Supermodel is going to be able to support Scud Race, and it's going to work here on Android. And I have long said that Scud Race is one of the best arcade racing games ever made, not just by Sega, but by anyone in the history of the medium and the genre, and I 100% stand by that. And every single time I talk about Supermodel, I say how incredibly talented the team of developers are that write this emulator, and just how incredible of an experience it is. And that experience 100% translates over to Android so well. And because I consider this, along with Naomi, to have basically the best Sega library of any 3D arcade board out there, and some of these games have never been available outside of their arcade boards, this is absolutely a huge win, not just from an emulation fun standpoint, but from a video game preservation standpoint. Because if it wasn't for Supermodel in and of itself, a lot of these games would be impossible to play, and now a new team porting Supermodel over to Android means a whole new operating system and platforms are going to be able to play Sega Model 3, and damn it, that is a fun time. But we are done. Go grab this one if you have Android, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.